Colonel Mannali, see, you have multiple experience. Over the past 18 years, you've been in the healthcare sector in Kerala, moving from, you started off what Indo-American at Wycombe, and now you moved on to a medical college. You had an experience with CMC Vellore on its Chittoor campus, and then now you are the CEO of SUT Medical College. How do you see? What would you like to say to the audience about scaling up of hospitals and the growth factor? Are we moving in the right direction? And is there a conscience call as far as you are concerned? Please.
Thank you, Dr. Banavan. At the outset, I must thank and compliment Dhanam for having come up with this sort of a activity, creating or getting together minds who are interested in healthcare and thinking about the future of healthcare in Kerala as also in India. Now, I would like to catch on that particular point which you mentioned as to healthcare is not like any other business. Far from it, it is a social service sector. I think that has to be emphasized. We cannot just be behaving and thinking like an industry. I would strongly object to anyone using the word healthcare industry. It is a healthcare service sector. I think that alone will give us an indication as to where we should really head towards. I am being the CEO of a corporate hospital, but a corporate hospital which will be somewhere in between what Farhan heads and what Father Kunath heads, somewhere in between. But being that, with an apology, I would say that healthcare organizations in India and especially in Kerala should have a social bent of mind. We have a responsibility towards the common man. That is precisely the reason that we are in healthcare sector and we are not into multiple other industries that we could have also been in. Having said that, the theme talks about scaling up of hospitals and management of growth. I would like to think slightly differently. There also I am taking a cue from Dr. Banavan and take you on a different path, an entirely different perspective. Hospitals, of course, scaling up is entirely a matter of the hospital or the hospital chains. But when it comes to the nation, when it comes to the state, when it comes to the society, scaling up should be of healthcare sector and healthcare sector across the country, across the state. So, when you talk about scaling up, we must be actually thinking about negating all these divides, urban-rural divide, the moneyed versus the common man, oblique the poor man divide, and multiple other divides that India faces today. When I came back to Kerala after traveling all over the country, I thought Kerala was a very prosperous state and there was no poverty here and all that. I was actually surprised to see that my first venture into healthcare sector was in Wycombe, godforsaken place known as Chemanagari. I found there that there was so much of poverty around me, and that really struck me. So this sort of divides, we must negate it, and we must be instrumental in negating it. We have a social responsibility there. Secondly, how can we cut costs? I heard references to the NHS experiment and the US experiment and all that. For heaven's sake, let us not ape the Goras. Goras means the whites. I'm using a Hindi word there. We have to have a path of our own, which suits India and not which suits UK or US. This reference to these sort of countries does not take us anywhere. We must be Indian, we must think Indian and bring in what values which we have generated or created or continued over the ages. That must be seen in everything that we do, especially in healthcare. So therefore, I also heard a reference of 100 hospitals having shut down and all that. Yes, it's true, but why? This question, when you're talking about scaling up of healthcare, we must also worry as to why have 100 hospitals shut down. And if we go the way that we are going, many more will shut down. let us be very cautious about this aspect. Corporatization, maybe we cannot stop it. Incidentally, I am reminded of a conversation which I had with Dr. Devi Shetty, he is one of the leaders of healthcare who thinks very, very differently as far as healthcare is concerned. One of my meetings with him way back in 2010, I had asked him, why don't you come into Kerala with Narayana Healthcare? You know what he told me at that point of time was, Rajiv, are you joking? Do you want me to commit harakiri? Harakiri is suicide. Now, that was the thought process of a corporate healthcare leader 13 years or 12 years back. And now there's a rush of corporates into Kerala. Why? What is the difference? Is it because there's a need? I'm not too sure. Need, if there's a need now, there was a need 12 years back also. There is something going wrong, something amiss. I would like to dive deep into that and see as to why is there a corporate rush into Kerala. I would also want to think, and I would want you also to think as to, is that good for Kerala? I have my thoughts to say that that does not augur well for the state. So we must continue to step up and also scale up these mediums and small scale hospitals, and also encourage that street corner doctor, the family doctor who actually set up this Kerala model. While we are proud of this Kerala model, let us continue to be proud of it. Let us continue to cherish it, and let us continue to promote it. We have a social responsibility, and as we call ourselves healthcare leaders, we must be conscious of this fact, and we must continue to support the common man, the poor man who cannot afford it. And let us not talk about insurance riding our healthcare sector. Let us not talk about corporates riding our healthcare sector. Let them be there. But let us bother more about the man who cannot afford it. And that is where we need to have some sort of a divide, where the responsibility for healthcare, I would simply put it across that government has a primary responsibility. Government must look after the primary healthcare and also secondary healthcare. The others, the private sector, they may be encouraged to go into tertiary and quaternary care. And if a hospital is allowed to come up with one hospital in an urban area, they must be forced to open up something in a rural area as well, a tier 3 city as well. That is where the licensing should come in. It should not be licensing by the government to come to everyone to flood into one particular area. There was a reference to Kannur. I'm also reasonably familiar with Kannur. I don't know how can there be 3-4 corporate hospitals there in Kannur, in a small district like that. So the licensing system should take care of this unnecessary, unwanted rush into various areas, create an equity around the availability and accessibility and also affordability as far as the healthcare units are concerned. We need to think seriously about it. We cannot allow this insurance, corporate hospital ridden or driven healthcare scenario in this country and in our state too. Thank you.